back in July, Father Gary Daly, rector of St. Michael's Cathedral in Springfield, led an 11-day Catholic communications pilgrimage to Italy. During that time, pilgrims from the Diocese of Springfield were treated to the many cultural, culinary, and religious experiences that Italy has to offer. In part one of our series now, the group begins their journey in the picturesque town of Assisi, where they walk in the footsteps of St. Francis, St. Clare, and modern-day St. Carlo Acutis. With many stops along the way, the first part of the journey concludes in Lanciano, where the Catholic Church witnessed its first Eucharistic miracle in 750 AD.
Making it safely across the Atlantic Ocean, we arrive at Fiumicino Airport in Italy to begin our 12-day pilgrimage. Well, we made it to Rome. We board our coach bus and travel 3 hours north to Assisi. Hallowed be thy name. The town of Assisi, with a population of about 28,000, is in the Perugia province, Umbria region in central Italy. It is on a spur of Monte Subasio at an elevation of 1,300 feet. The town has narrow, winding streets and is surrounded by medieval walls. It became part of the Papal States in the 16th century, became part of the Italian Kingdom in 1860. The town's most notable landmark is the Basilica of St. Francis, which was begun in 1228, just after St. Francis's canonization, and was completed in 1253. The two-story basilica consists of an upper church and a lower church. The crypt in the lower church was added in 1818, when the tomb of St. Francis was opened. It is here, at the altar of his tomb, that we celebrate our first Mass of our pilgrimage. The basilica is one of the greatest repositories of early Renaissance frescoes in Italy. The upper church has frescoes representing the life of St. Francis and others depicting scenes of the Old and New Testaments. Earthquakes on September 26, 1997, seriously damaged the basilica, collapsing several vaulted ceilings of the upper church and destroying frescoes. Assisi is also the birthplace of St. Clare, a disciple of St. Francis and the founder of the religious order known as the Poor Clares. The Basilica of St. Clare contains her tomb with her incorrupt body. This basilica contains the San Damiano crucifix from which Jesus told St. Francis to rebuild his church. I confess to Almighty God and to you, my brothers and sisters, that I have greatly sinned in my thoughts and in my words, in what I have done and what I have failed to do, through my fault, through my most grievous fault. Therefore I ask Blessed Mary, ever Virgin, all the angels and saints, and you, my brothers and sisters, to pray for me to the Lord our God. We're here now in the lower part of Assisi, where St. Francis spent the majority of his life. And here we're standing in front of the Basilica of St. Mary of the Angels. This basilica is the 7th largest Christian church. The building of this basilica started in 1569 and continued until 1667. And inside the Grand Basilica under the dome is the Porziuncola Chapel, which dates back to the 10th or 11th century and was given to St. Francis by the Benedictines, and is important because it was here that the Franciscan order was born. The other important chapel is the Chapel of the Transition, where St. Francis died on October 4th, 1226. In 1832, an earthquake caused the collapse of the central nave and part of the lateral nave. The facade was originally remodeled in the neoclassical style until 1928, when it was again redesigned in neo-Baroque style. But one of the deeply impactful visits of the day was to the Church of St. Mary Major in Assisi, which contains the remains of then blessed, but now St. Carlo Acutis, who died at the age of 15 in 2006. This is a place of pilgrimage for many young people. The next day after breakfast, we board the bus to make our 5-hour trek alongside the Adriatic Sea to San Giovanni Rotondo. On the way, we make 2 special stops. First, we make a brief stop to visit the Holy House of Loreto. Loreto is a charming hill town of some 10,000 inhabitants. This has been an important pilgrimage destination for nearly 8 centuries. The Holy House is enclosed with ornate Renaissance-era marble beneath a large basilica, also built during the Renaissance. The house itself consists of 3 walls of stacked stones. It is believed that Mary grew up and the Annunciation took place within these walls. Tradition tells us that this house of Mary was transported from Nazareth by the holy angels. The house is now used as a chapel. Toward the front is a stone altar known as the Altar of the Apostles. Along with an ancient plate, these relics arrived in Loreto together with the Holy House. Our next stop is in the town of Lanciano, a town of about 34,000 residents in the Abruzzo region of Italy alongside the beautiful Adriatic Sea. This town has been made famous by the first recorded Eucharistic miracle. Our group had the privilege of not only viewing the Eucharistic miracle in the sacred monstrance, but having Mass right alongside it. This is one of the oldest Eucharistic miracles in the history of the Church. There have been many since then. I would say 150 Eucharistic miracles, and Blessed Carlo Acutis had researched them all. That was really his thing. That's what he did on his computer, and he compiled all the lists of the Eucharistic miracles throughout the world. The miracle took place in the year 750, when a Basilian monk was celebrating the Holy Mass. He doubted his faith in the Eucharist. While celebrating Mass, the bread and wine transformed into actual human flesh and blood. Those in attendance spread the news throughout the monastery and surrounding area. And shortly after, the blood in the chalice coagulated into 5 globules, which onlookers connected to the 5 wounds of Jesus. More than 1,200 years after this miracle, in 1970, Pope Paul VI commissioned a series of studies of the miraculous host of Lanciano. Doctors of human anatomy and histology performed separate investigations, which corroborated each other's findings. Further studies were taken up by the World Health Organization in 1973 and again in 1981, both of which confirmed the findings and discovered even more information. The results are truly stunning. The flesh has the same structure as heart tissue and the membrane of tissue lining cardiac cavities. The flesh was also discovered as being fresh, with no trace of preservatives. The globules of blood were also of human origin and determined to be of blood type AB. Further, while blood taken from a cadaver would deteriorate quickly, these samples continue to maintain the same properties of fresh blood. So what you see is what has been there for 1,300 years. And it's subject to light. You see it. There's light shining on it. People taking pictures. That has not changed. So Jesus is truly present here.
And we look forward to traveling virtually along with the pilgrims throughout the next few weeks.